children. And I kind of wanted to like pose the question of if it was too long. Wait, let me close the door. I'm so sorry. I don't want my dogs to bark. So to start, in the United States, on average, students are in school for about 6.64 hours a day and about 180 days out of the year. And in Delaware, it's pretty similar, but the average of hours is a little bit higher. So it's 6.68, and then about 181 days of school out of the year. And then just for some advantages, some people think that it is more beneficial to have long days of school because it can increase the amount of instruction time that students have with teachers and their support staff. Since they're in school longer, they'll be getting more direct instruction from staff members. And then another advantage is that it can be easier on parents. We can all see this now, like a lot of parents are having trouble trying to work if their kids are at home. So if the kids are in school for, a long part of the day, then parents can work full time without having to worry about childcare. But then some disadvantages of long school days are that there's no actual correlation to longer school days having an impact or leading to higher achievement. So research shows that on average, US teachers spend more time in the classroom with students, but other developed nations have higher student achievement than the US. So, in the US, kids are in school for a longer amount of time, but again, there's no actual feedback saying that that's beneficial necessarily. Another disadvantage is that it can limit time for other activities. So if kids are in the school longer, then they don't have as much free time to get other activities done or explore other interests they might like maybe sports or dance or different hobbies because they're in school for too long. Another disadvantage is that it can cause pressure on students. So, again, if they're in school most of the day, 9 times out of 10, they're being expected to, complete some time for homework as well. So then they have less time to complete, their homework or other activities. And it can burn students out, especially younger ones. And it may not be developmentally appropriate, to expect really young children to be sitting still for so long. So if that school day, is dragged out, then it can have more of a harmful impact, especially for the younger students. And then it can also cause behavior problems. So with more of a flexible schedule, things can be a little more relaxed for the students. So it's possible that the number of student referrals can go down. And I'm going to kind of go into it in some of my later slides, but even with COVID right now, we've started back with our hybrid model. So a lot of kids are in school and we've noticed, the behaviors across the board, we're not having as many issues in person with behaviors as we have in previous years. And I know for sure that can be, caused by a lot of different reasons. Like right now, our class sizes are a little bit smaller in person because we can only have a max of 10. So I think that, affects it as well. But I also think, they're only there. Well, again, I don't want to get too far ahead, but they're not in the building as long as they usually would be in the building. So that can also play an effect as well. And then the last thing is for teachers, if the school day is a little bit shorter, that gives teachers more time to plan and prep during those hours and really focus on individualized instruction for their students. So they'll actually have time to really plan meaningful and thoughtful lessons for their students to help make, better use of the time they do have together. And then just kind of taking a look in other places. So in Russia, on average, students usually get out of school at about 1 or 2 p.m. In Finland, students get a 15-minute break every 45 minutes. So that's not necessarily shortening the school day, but it is acknowledging that students do need a break, over time. And then in Ireland, the average school day is only about 5 hours and 40 minutes. So again, that's less than the about 6.5 hours for us. So overall, Finnish students are ranked number 2 among other countries in terms of reading, math, and science. Students in Ireland are ranked 17 out of 65. And those are from 2 different studies. So I didn't see how they compare against each other in both of those studies, but it still shows that their rankings are pretty high. And then Russia, about 99.7% of the people ages 15 and older can read and write. So I couldn't find the data for Russia in terms of that, but it still shows that, with the kids getting out at 1 or 2 p.m., they're still pretty successful and at least able to accomplish like basic reading and writing skills as they age. And then what really made me think of this kind of more as a current issue now is just with COVID and everything going on, schools are forced, to teach remotely, and they're starting to come back hybrid now. And with those changes, students have had to learn synchronously and asynchronously as well, because we know it's unrealistic for students to be sitting on a computer, for 6 or 6.5 hours a day as they would be in school. So schools have had to become more flexible with their schedules. There wasn't really a choice. So for example, just kind of looking at my school personally, typically the kindergartners would be in school from 8:25 to 3:55. And that was how our full day went. But now, since COVID, the kids who come in for hybrid instruction are only there from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So that day is shortened a little bit for them. And then for the students who are fully remote, they're only live from 9:30 to 11:45, which I still think is a lot for fully remote kids, but it just goes to show that time can be cut down, to kind of accommodate for a lot that's going on. And we know that teaching remotely is not ideal. And we know, there's a lot of flaws with this system right now, but it shows, that it is still possible for students to learn in a more untraditional approach. So just kind of thinking like even half-day kindergarten, could be considered again, because I know like when I was growing up, when I was in kindergarten, that was a big option for a lot of kids. They were only in school half day, but you don't really see that as much now as it used to be. Or even possibly considering like AM or PM classes for some older students, like having that flexibility. And, the change in the number of hours students spend in school can impact them in all sorts of ways, physically, cognitively, socially. It could really affect a lot. It could give them time to work if they needed to, have a job, or it can give them more time with peers in more of a relaxed setting, but still where they're able to get work done, in school with their teachers, but maybe complete some more work asynchronously, or, just have time to be kids. I feel like that's something that gets kind of cut out more and more now. And then that was all I had. But like I said, I just felt like that was pretty interesting now in the time of COVID. We've been forced to change things, but I feel like it kind of opens up your eyes to say like, well, things can change and there's still that possibility to change them. Again, not saying that like what's happening now is perfect, because there are a lot of flaws, but it just shows a possibility, I guess.
You're not retaining fat because it causes our fat cells to increase. We automatically have them, but it's causing them to increase in size when we don't put them in a deficit.
Yes, you both have good answers. Thank you. The next slide is on substance abuse, which I have a little note card for. So basically, by the mid-20s, a reduction in alcohol and drug use often takes place. Binge drinking among college students is still a major concern and can cause students to miss classes, have trouble with police, and have unprotected sex. Alcoholism is a disorder that impacts an individual's health and social relationships. Fewer young adults that smoke cigarettes are find it more harder to quit because of the nicotine addiction. That's just a little synopsis. But alcoholism is a disorder that involves long-term, repeated, uncontrolled, compulsive, and excessive use of alcohol beverages, and that impairs the drinker's health and social relationships. 1 in 9 individuals who drink continues the path to alcoholism. Those who do are disproportionately related to alcoholics. Did I tell you guys the question? Okay, so the question is how intensive How intensive is substance abuse in young adults? What effects does it have on their lives?
It's very, it has a huge impact on their lives, especially in their early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
College students, number one. But the problem is that, you know, people in general don't realize what effect that can have on them long term. It's
Mm-hmm.
very important to be educated on that so that they know what to avoid and signs to look for to lead into, an ongoing disorder problem and so forth. Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
The next slide is sexual activity in emerging adults. Guys have more. Is there a question? Was there a question? No. Guys have more easygoing sexual accomplices, and females, oh, I'm sorry, report being more particular about their decisions of sexual accomplices. Approximately 60% of arising grown-ups have had sex with just a single individual in the previous year, yet compared to young adults in their late 20s and 30s, arising grown-ups are bound to have had sex with at least two people. Although arising grown-ups have sex with a larger number of people than youthful grown-ups, they engage in sexual relations less regularly. Roughly 25% of arising grown-ups report having sex several times each year or not at all. Casual sex is more normal in arising adulthood than it is in youthful adulthood. So the chapter talked on forcible sexual behaviors and sexual harassment. Rape is forcible sexual and was there a question on the last slide? No. Rape is forcible sexual intercourse with a person who does not give consent. Legal definition of rape differ from state to state. For example, in some states, husbands are not prohibited from forcing their wives to have intercourse, although this has been challenged in several of those states. Date or acquaintance rape, which is conceived sexual activity directed at someone with whom the victim is at least casually acquainted. Sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a manifestation of power of one person over another. It takes many forms, from inappropriate sexual remarks and physical contact, patting, brushing against one's body, to blatant propositions and sexual assault. Millions of women experience sexual harassment each year in work and educational settings. Sexual harassment of men by women also occur, but to a far lesser extent than sexual harassment of women by men. Women by men. Oh, got a note card on this. So cognitive development. Piaget presumed that a juvenile and a grown-up think subjectively similarly. That is, Piaget's contended that at around 11 to 15 years old enough, youth enter the formal operational stage, which is described by more legitimate, unique, and optimistic intuition than the solid operational, considering 7 to 11 years old. Piaget focused on that youthful grown-ups are all the more quantitatively progressed in their speculation as in they have more information than teenagers. He likewise comp, comp, contemplated as do data preparing therapists that grown-ups particularly in, increment their insight in a particular zone. For example, a psychiatrist's comprehensions of material science on a budgetary investigator's information about money, as indicated by Piaget. Nonetheless, formal operational idea is the last stage in intellectual turn of events, and it describes grown-ups just as teenagers. Some developmentalists guess it isn't until adulthood that numerous people unite their formal operational reasoning. That is, that they may start to design a guess about scholarly issues in youth. They become more deliberate and modern at this as youthful grown-ups. In any case, even numerous grown-ups do. In any case, even numerous grown-ups do. Diversity in the workplace. Ethnic variety additionally is expanding in the working environment in each created nation aside from France. In the United States, somewhere in the range of 1980 to 2004, the level of Latinos and Asian Americans dramatically increased in the working environment, a pattern that is required to proceed. Latinos are expanded to comprise a bigger level of the workforce than African Americans by 2018, developing from 13% in 2006 to 17.6% in 2018. The expanded variety in the work environment requires an effectability in social contrast, and the social qualities that laborers bring to an employment should be perceived and acknowledged. Regardless of the expanded variety in the working environment, ladies of ethnic minorities experience trouble in getting through the unattainable rank. This is undetectable boundaries and to professional success keeps ladies and ethnic minorities from holding administrative and chief positions, paying little heed to their achievements and benefits. Chapter 14, Learning Goals. Describe stability and change in temperament and summarize adult attachment styles. Identify some key aspects of attraction, love, and close relationships. Characterize adult lifestyles. Discuss making marriages work, parenting, and divorce. Summarize the role of gender in relationships. Temperament is an individual's behavioral style and characteristic emotional responses. The dimensions of personality are easy and difficult temperaments. Children who had an easy temperament at 3 to 5 years of age were likely to be well adjusted as young adults. In contrast, many children who had a difficult temperament at 3 to 5 years of age were not well adjusted as young adults. Inhibition: individuals who had an inhibited temperament in childhood are less likely than other adults to be assertive or experience social support and more likely to delay entering a stable job track. Ability to control one's emotions. In one longitudinal study, when 3-year-old children show good control of their emotions and were resilient in the face of stress, they were likely to continue to handle emotions effectively as adults. By contrast, when 3-year-olds had low emotional control and were not very resilient, they were likely to show problems in their areas as young adults. Attachment. Secure and insecure attachment have been proposed as important aspects of infants and adolescents' social emotional development. Types of attachment: you have secure attachment style. Securely attached adults have positive views of relationships, find it easy to get close to others, and are not overly concerned with or stressed out about their romantic relationships. These adults tend to enjoy sexuality and the content of a committed relationship and are less likely than others to have one night stands. Avoidant attachment styles: avoidant individuals are hesitant about getting involved in romantic relationships and once in a relationship tend to distance themselves from their partner. Anxious attachment style: these individuals demand closeness, are less trusting, and are more emotional, jealous, and possessive. Question: what attachment styles characterizes adults and how are they linked to relationship outcomes? The majority of adults, about 60 to 80%, describe themselves as securely attached, and not surprisingly, adults prefer having a securely attached partner. Researchers are studying links between adults' current attachment styles and many aspects of their lives. For example, securely attached adults are more satisfied with their close relationships than insecurely attached adults. And the relationships of securely attached adults are more likely to be characterized by trust, commitment, and longevity. Securely attached adults are more likely than insecurely attached adults to provide support when they are distressed and are more likely to give support when their partner is distressed. So what attachment style characterizes adults and what are they linked and what are linked to the relationship outcomes?
Most describe themselves as securely attached. And in that case, they prefer someone else who is securely attached.
Mm-hmm.
And there's studies that are trying to link different attachment styles to different aspects of people's lives.
Okay. and that they and what are how are they linked to the relationship outcomes? I guess when they say are linked, they linked by like trust, commitment, and like longevity.
Right, because I think the one, if you go back a slide or two, it mentioned one, the anxious one. They don't like they don't trust others. They're more emotional, jealous, and possessive. So like in that case, I like it would kind of be depending on what kind of friends they have, that friendship dynamic is a little skewed there.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Attraction, familiarity, and similarity, consensual validation, and explanation of why individuals are attracted to people who are similar to them. Our, our own attitudes and behaviors are supported and validated when someone else's attitudes and behaviors are similar to our own. Physical attractiveness matching hypothesis states that although we prefer a more attractive person in the abstract, in the real world, we end up choosing someone who is close to our own level. Question: what are some different types of love? The faces of love. Once we are initially attracted to another person, other opportunities exist that may deepen the relationship to love. Love refers to a vast, complex territory of human behavior spanning a range of relationships that includes friendship, romantic love, affectionate love, and consummate love. Self-disclosure and the sharing of private thoughts are hallmarks of intimacy. So do you guys, what are the different types of love?
I don't know. You sound like you're an expert on this topic and like you're enjoying it a little too much there, Devontae. Just had to say it. You're so cute.
What are some different types of love that I listed if you guys would?
Friendship.
It was friendship, romantic, affectionate, and consummate.
Thank you. And then my next slide is going to go a little bit deeper into the types of love. So romantic love, also called passionate love and eros. Romantic love has strong sexual and infatuation components and often predominates in the early period of a love relationship. Affectionate love is a type of love also called compassionate love. An individual desires to have the other person near and has a deep, caring affection for the other person. And consummate love involves all three dimensions of passion, intimacy, and commitment. What are current marital trends? Adult lifestyles. Single adults' advantages of being single include having time to make decisions about one's life course, time to develop personal resources to meet goals, freedom to make anonymous decisions and pursue one's own schedules and interests, opportunities to explore new places and try out new things in privacy. Common problems of single adults may include forming intimate relationships with other adults, confronting loneliness, and finding a niche in a society that is marriage oriented. Stress may also be an issue. One national survey revealed that a higher percentage of singles, 58%, reported they experienced extreme stress in the past month than married, 52%, and divorced individuals, 48%. Cohabiting adults, couples who cohabit face certain problems. Disapproval by parents and other family members can place emotional strain on a cohabiting couple. Some cohabiting couples have difficulties owning property jointly. Legal rights on the dissolution of the relationship are less certain than in a divorce. Married adults. In recent years, marriage rates in the United States have declined. More adults are remaining single longer today, and the average duration of a marriage in the United States is currently just over 9 years. In 2007, the U.S. average age for a first marriage climbed to 27.5 years for men and 25.6 years for women, higher than any other point in history. In 1980, the average age for the first marriage in the United States was 24 years for men and 21 for women. So reading that paragraph, that says, what are current marital trends?
It looks like the average age for both men and women to get married increased.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Basically, it's just basically how they were. The current trend is like how I guess they're getting a little older now. They're getting married a little older now and not so younger as it was back then. Moving along. Making marriage work. John Gottman argues that it is important to realize that love is not something magical and that through knowledge and effort, couples can improve their relationship. In his research, Gottman found that 7 main principles determine whether a marriage will work. Establish love maps, nurture fondness and admiration. Admiration, yeah. Turn towards each other instead of away. Let your future influence you. Solve solvable conflicts. Overcome gridlock and create shared memories. Question: what are some current trends in childbearing? For many young adults, parental controls are well planned, coordinated with other roles in life, and developed with the individual's economic situation in mind. For others, the discovery that they are about to become parents is a startling surprise. In either event, the prospective parents may have mixed emotions and romantic illusions about having a child. Excuse me. Trends for childbearing. By giving birth to fewer children and Trends for childbearing. By giving birth to fewer children, reducing the demands of childcare, women free up a significant portion of their lifespans for other individual. You get what I'm saying. Men are opt to invest in greater amount of time in fathering. Parental care is often supplemented by institutional care, child care, for example. So anybody can just repeat what trends for childbearing. Just list one of them to answer the question.
Women are giving up. Fewer women are having children so that they basically have more of a life.
Mm-hmm.
And dads are giving more time into parenting or fathering, as they call it.
Okay, yes, thank you. Next question. What are some differences in how men and women communicate? Gender and communication. We have rapport talk, the language of conversation. It is a way of establishing connections and negotiating relationships. Report talk that is designed to give information and includes public speaking. In this study, women use words more for discussing people and what they were doing, as well as for communicating internal processes to others, including expressions of doubt. By contrast, men use words more for internal events, objects, and processes, including occupation, money, sports, and swearing. Contrary to popular stereotypes, men and women could not be distinguished in their references to sexuality and anger. Thus, while gender similarity likely characterizes communication in general, as just indicated, there do seem to be some gender differences in certain aspects of communication. So, to answer the question, what are some differences in how men and women communicate?
It says women use more word. Hold on. Women use words more for compared to men.
Yes. So basically, I put in parentheses that women use more of a rapport talk and men use more of a report talk. Moving along. Oh, that is it. And that is the end of my slides, of my PowerPoint. That is the end of chapter 14.
Okay, thank you, Devontae.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
See, communication and social networking across the world. You know, they can talk to students. My daughter has friends in Canada now that she's met. So it definitely opens up your world. And if you look down at the 4th point, it expands the world of learning to a variety of subjects. She's really into anime and drawing. And so she has been able to take time to find all those sorts of things, you know, on the web and through social medias as well. It's also very beneficial to children who feel excluded or experiencing exclusion issues in the classroom and in life in general. Kids who are disabled or chronically ill, it's certainly a benefit to them. And then there's, the entertainment aspect of everything, and your self-expression and your TikToks, videos and so forth. It actually helps you kind of develop your sense of self, which has been a big discussion and part of our course thus far. Then there were the negative effects. There seemed to be a lot more negative effects than benefits. Several studies talked about increased feelings of depression, anxiety. They don't like the way their body looks. They're lonely. And also, I read a little bit about addiction. Now, there's something new out about addiction to your cell phone. There's even like help classes now for addiction to your cell phone. I had no idea about that. But I took my phone away from my daughter a couple of weeks ago because she did not do her makeup work I asked her to do. She would had a panic attack, like breathing and freaking out because took her phone away. And again, this is kind of what, pushed me into looking into this, actually. Another thing, another negative effect would be that they're missing all the real life interactions with their friends and their family. And, and even some of the neighbors around don't want the kids to play. I mean, some people are very cautious with the coronavirus, which I'll get to that in a minute. But they're missing a lot of the interaction. And then there was the cyberbullying. And in my school, we have a class, it's called advisory. And within that class, we teach students about how to be better college students, but we also teach them about things such as this. Cyberbullying is one of them. It's a whole topic, actually, within that course. And so much of this happens, and it's so sad. These students get picked on, and in your adolescent years, I mean, if somebody says that you're fat or you're ugly or anything, it just crushes them. I mean, it's horrible. It's so mean. And a lot of people will say things in cyberbullying and online and within these social media outlets that they would never normally say in person. They don't have the guts to say it to their face, but they'll definitely write about it. And then I found this really interesting, the imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome is used in psychology. And it refers to basically, it's about your self-esteem. And it comes from consolidating who you really believe that you are, who you appear to be and who you really are. There's that controversy within yourself at this age. And I just found that very interesting. If you have time, I would look that up. I only have 5 minutes, so can't go into the imposter syndrome, but it was really interesting. And then overall, what should parents do? Because that's what this all comes down to. So if you can go to the next slide, Dr. Kim. Okay. Has the coronavirus made it worse? What do you think? What do y'all think? Has it? Has it made social media worse? Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's what a lot of us think. Okay, Dr. Kim. Next slide, please. Okay. So I went into that. I looked into COVID-19 and social media in adolescents. And there was a study by the Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago. They stated that 63% of parents claim that their teens are on social media now more than before COVID-19, which I expected. I just kind of wanted to verify it, And according to the CDC, the coronavirus disease can affect adolescents directly and indirectly, not just by getting sick, but their social, emotional, and mental well-being. can be implicated. There are so many facets here. You know, they get scared, they feel lost, they feel alone, they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything. There's so many facets to all of this. Actually, once I started doing all this research, I was like, you know, I could have done an entire dissertation on this topic. There was so much information, it's difficult to condense it, but doing the best I can. Johns Hopkins research, I took this quote from them. And actually, I put that link there for you because the article was so interesting. It was between two different doctors that had a different point of view on every single aspect of the effects of social media and COVID-19. It was wonderful. So I put that there for you to read if you have time. And I mean, I can read it to you. You can read it yourself. But adolescents depend on their mobile devices to connect with their friends, and it's more important for their parents to help them use screen time in a good way rather than simply limiting its use. And I thought that was a really strong statement because, you know, you can't just take their phone away from them, but you could show them how to use social media in a more beneficiary sense. Next slide, please. What does the research say? According to the Mayo Clinic, social media is a big part of many teens' lives. And in 2018, the Pew Research Center surveyed that they only surveyed 750 students or adolescents, which I wasn't too fond of, but I found and had read another one that was out of 6,500 students, and I couldn't get the website back because my internet crashed. I'm not at home. I'm in North Carolina, and I'm kind of in between a lot right now. Anyway, so 13 to 17-year-olds, 45%. This is crazy. 45% of them are online almost constantly, and 97% use a social media platform. So they're on YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat. I did not allow my daughter to have a Facebook page, but she is on TikTok. She's always on that too. I just can't believe the impact that this has made. I really can't. I wanted to choose something local, so I looked at the University of Maryland, what they had to say. They said emerging studies find that youth spend a considerable portion of their daily life interacting with social media. Absolutely, it's true. And then the National Institute of Health claimed that adolescents have access to and engage in the use of SNNs. You know, there are so many acronyms for everything now. I don't even ever know what they mean anymore. It's crazy, but anyway, it's social networking sites. So that's what it's called. I learned something new with that. And based on relatively recent data, which I didn't think it was that relevant. I'm trying to think of the actual study. I believe it was 2015. So you know it's higher than that. 73% use social networking sites. All right, next slide. So what should parents do? There is a lot out there. There really is. Suggestions to make things better, which I really enjoyed all of this. And actually what I learned the most, which is what you're going to ask me, is how am I going to use it? Well, I'm going to use it with my little girl because I'm having a huge problem with her with this right now. But the CDC states that parents should encourage adolescents to reach out to friends and family, right? Again, in every site, you see the benefits, you know, and the harms. The Mayo Clinic suggested these things: set reasonable limits, monitor your teen's accounts, explain what's not okay, encourage face-to-face contact with friends and family, and to talk about social media. So let me look here. I wanted to try and sum that up. Where's that paper? That's the wrong one. I'll come to it. Anyway, the CD said their suggestions were to recognize and address fear and stress, teach and reinforce everyday preventative actions, help and keep adolescent children healthy and happy, and help adolescents stay socially connected for the right reasons. All right, here it is. So the Mayo Clinic, set reasonable limits. What does that mean? That's like talk to your teen about how to avoid letting social media interfere with their activities, their sleep, their meals, their homework. I mean, I hate that I have to take things away, take her phone away from her. I don't know if you all have to do that. I know some of you either have had adolescents, teach them, know them, something. We're all there. Monitor their accounts. I actually went on Verizon and got the Smart Family Plan. It's like $10 a month. And I'll tell you what, it was horrible. It wouldn't let her like access Google. There were so many filters that she had no access to things that could even help her. And I've been trying to get rid of it for a month. Still can't get rid of it. So there's a short little video clip that I thought I'd like you to watch. It's only 1.5 minutes if I have time, Dr. Kim. And it's just about what you can do to make things better. And then we'll do question and answer.
I think our internet connection is not good to play video. So I try to, but it is really, really slow. I think so.
Okay. Well, they can watch, you can, I mean, now that it's posted, you can watch it. So I put up 3 different questions that I thought would be interesting for us to discuss.
Basically coming out when they were of age to be using the internet. But my grandkids, like I have a 8-year-old granddaughter who likes to speak to her friends on the internet, or she wants to, and her mom has to really try and reel her in because she'll get on the, she wants to be on a phone. And I'm like, you're 8 years old, you're 8. And they're getting younger and younger. So I think that, to basically monitor use and to make sure that you're using the internet or giving them internet exposure at appropriate ages is significant because, again, going back to last week's adolescents are really influenced by their peers. And, the ages start at 8, 9, 10, 11. They're really influenced by their peers at those early ages. So when you have things going on like bullying or peer pressure, those types of things, their friends are getting to them through the internet. So to basically try and limit as much internet access as possible, it would be my thought. Like I said, I don't have kids that young. I do have grandchildren that are that young and that, are experiencing issues with the internet. Fortunately, not bullying or anything like that, but you
don't look old enough to have grandchildren, honey.
I do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
social media goes, you have to make it clear that a lot of the pictures and things that they see, half of them are photoshopped. They're not real. And any products they're promoting, those people are getting paid to tell you it's good. So they understand like, okay, it doesn't really look like this. There was even some place they had where they turned a house to look like a private plane. So people would come, influencers would take pictures and make people think, oh, they're going on another trip. And as far as like setting limits and things, there's a lot of good ways on the iPhone. Because I know for my sisters, we do like a family sharing. We didn't have to pay extra for it, but everybody's location is on. And so at any time you can see where they are on a map because, people are disappearing and kids, especially at that age, like 13, 14, they're going missing. So we have it set up so we'll always be able to, if something ever does happen, we'll be able to get into it. And also for social media, we had them all write on like a index card, usernames and passwords for everything in order for them to get on it. That was the rule. And if they change anything, they have to keep it up to date. So if we ever sense there might be an issue, we can just jump in there anytime and see maybe who they're communicating with or if they are experiencing any problems.
Thank you.
Year-old son, and he's in 5th grade, and most of his friends like have phones and this, that, and the other. And I think I'm the only parent, me and my husband, that's firmly agree that he does not need a phone. And I try to explain to him, like, you know, most of the kids like he's friends with, I know, I'm like, well, you know, in their defense, they have split families. So, you know, they spend certain time with mom, certain time with dad. So it's easier for them to communicate that way. But I also, you know, even when it comes to like video games and things like that, he has time limits. And, you know, we monitor what he's doing on there, you know, who he's being friends with and who he's talking to, because he has like the little headset that he can talk to his friends. So we monitor all of that, give him, you know, certain screen time, especially now with COVID, because he's doing hybrid learning. So every other week he's in front of a screen for 5 to 6 hours a day. And he hates it because he's like, well, I don't get to play video games as much. Well, I'm blame COVID. Like, I'm like, go outside and play. But I feel like just times in general have changed, because like when I was his age, I think we had dial-up internet, and you know, I only got on the computer to do school stuff, which back then was just writing papers. There wasn't really any research or anything. Now it's like you see kids, like I've seen kids younger than him walking around the grocery store on a phone, like walking into things because they're not even paying attention to where they're going.
The times of the 15, 18, and 25-year-old. So the social media and the phones and all of that, it has been a lot, especially for my youngest, because she spends a lot of time during the day online, and then she wants to play Roblox with her friends, like lunchtime or when they get out of school after she's done her homework, and then she plays with her cousins as well. So I limit as much screen time as possible with her. She doesn't have any social media. She plays all of this on her iPad. She doesn't have anything outside of an iPad. She doesn't have a phone or anything like that. And I explained to her, you know, you don't need that because you're always with someone else who has a phone. So you don't technically need a phone. And if you want to FaceTime your friends, you have your iPad. But she doesn't, like, I don't allow her to do that kind of stuff outside of the house. She can only do it in the house. So
how young kids are starting to use technology. You know, people give, you know, the kids iPads at like 2 and 1, and they know how to navigate a whole phone, you know, so young. I feel like it really starts young, because if they get used to all that technology from a really young age, which knowing how to use it isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like the social media and, you know, YouTube and all of that, if they do that so young, it's just going to get worse as they get older. Because 2 things with that. So the first, like one of my kids, for our district, they purchased a website called Securely. And so during school hours, we can see what the kids are doing on the school Chromebooks, because they have to, they all have one and they have to use it for their schoolwork.
Right.
And she was going on YouTube, and the dad was like, can we limit, you know, her YouTube usage, because he doesn't know what she's going on. And one day I caught her while she was on YouTube, and she's watching videos, and it's like, teenagers are, you know, like gossiping, or I don't know, it's like some video that someone made, and it's like about these teenage kids come to kindergarten and they don't have enough strength in their fingers and their fine motor skills to even hold a pen, because all they do is they tap and they
Sure, absolutely.
kindergarten, we're like, you have to write, and they can't even grip enough to make markings on paper. Crazy to think about.
Very, very critical part. All right, Katie.
Yeah, maybe this will just kind of catapult from what she just said or whatever. My mind isn't working very well. And ironically, the Child Mind Institute actually mentioned preschool activity with social media, and I quote, many parents worry about how exposure to technology might affect toddlers developmentally. We know our preschoolers are picking up new social and cognitive skills at a stunning pace.
All right, we have 2 weeks before the final. So we successfully finished the section 7 today. and we will move forward to section 8 and 9, middle and late adulthood, and next week. And Elisa will present the section 8, and Jordan and present the section 9, and issue presentation and Elisa. So we have two more, two more weekly review and case study paper, and after Thanksgiving, and then we go to the final exam. So please check your course syllabus and highlight important date and time for your final letter grade. If you have any questions, please email me and keep in touch. All right. Thank you so much coming.
Dr. Kim, I
Yeah.
did email you